one of the... I think this might be the last game of the group stage for these two teams, actually. They've each played 4 games, and there's 6 teams in each group, so should be a pretty good culmination. Just going to make sure that the stream is live before I give everyone in the lobby the heads up. Yeah, they've each played. All right.
Yep.
Sounds good.
See it.
They've already coin flipped and everything?
Yep.
Cool.
They're already correct.
I've
This
been...
is Team 9 and Team 5?
Correct, respectively. So Team 9 will be on the blue side and Team 5 on the red.
Nice.
I've been busy studying away at things like geometry and percentages. I'm going to close my Facebook so I stop baiting everyone in the stream like that, because I just got a Facebook message from our lovely co-president. But sorry, have to ignore you. For now, we've got a game on our hands between these two glorious teams. Looks like Team 1 actually has 4 people in gold. But, and if you guys were looking at the teams on the right side, it said Snowbase Syndra's Plat 2. That's actually misrepresentative in terms of his solo queue ranking.
That's his rank 3's ranking for a team that he doesn't really play on. He's gold 5 solo.
The client lists it as such, but no worries. These teams are fairly evenly stacked. We've already dealt with the cheating this tournament, so no worries there. Looks like the Syndra brand gonna be coming out straight away.
They must respect the name Snowbase Syndra to some extent.
Yeah, and I know Team 5 is just coming off hot on a win against their opponents. Not
The
entirely.
Snappy Vagar ban. Both of these bans targeted at the mid laner. Interesting.
Interesting.
Another
indeed.
mid lane ban. There seems to be pretty high priority in the mid lane here. I don't believe the captain of Team 5 is the mid laner, and I'm not sure if the captain of the Team 9 is their mid laner, but an abnormally high number of mid lane bans.
Yeah, their Team 9 Come and Get It seems to be their captain. I don't know exactly what he plays. I haven't had a lot of time to scout because I've been studying for the GRE I'm taking tomorrow. So this is a nice little break for me, but I wonder what they're going to pick in the mid lane. I do know that in the last game, Snowbase Syndra went 16-5 on a Vigar middle, so blue team a little wary of that. Going to be taking that away along with a Thresh from Proper Tasting. That's a champion he played in the last game also.
Yeah, I haven't done any research on what these teams have played before, so I'll just say what I can about the compositions that they tend to be drafting. Oh, thank you, Will, for the happy birthday shout out in the chat.
Oh
In terms
boy.
of certain OPs that are open right now, I definitely think the jungle pick should be the priority right now. They are hovering Caitlyn, however, which is okay, but I guess in a higher level of play, the OPs open right now would be the very strong jungle picks such as Hecker and Zac.
Yeah, and we always kind of say this when we're talking about tournament games, especially in things like the lower bracket, but comfort picks are a lot more relevant in these kinds of games when you compare it to things like professional play where, what, you didn't pick Nidalee, the #1 jungler at Worlds, you're going to insta-lose. When you have players that aren't necessarily practicing 12 hours a day, being able to actually understand your champion is a pretty big factor, so...
Especially when it comes to amateur tournaments, people are generally a lot more nervous and play more conservatively, and being familiar with your champion ends up mattering a lot more, especially if they just don't happen to play these high-tier champions. In response to the Caitlyn first pick is the Jhin and the Alistar. Not yet locked in yet, but I definitely do like the Jhin. Jhin has a roughly similar range to Vayne, or not to Vayne, sorry, to Caitlyn. Has a pretty decent time laning against her, especially because Caitlyn's net is almost always used in a straight line since you want to hit it on them to get the headshot. You can respond with your own W as well. And the Alistar in general is just a very aggressive front line that can zone Caitlyn very hard.
I know B Coops has been spamming Nami and Karma in their ranked games recently, so would not be surprised to see one of those as the support pick. Looks like they're hovering a Nunu. Not sure if that's going to come through or not. I'm having trouble doing a very quick last-minute search on recent team compositions for the our buddies over on Team 9. So I guess we'll just see how they go. They do go for that Nami, so definitely comfort pick for him. And Nami Caitlyn always has been a pretty decent lane, especially when you throw in the Blood Boil from the Nunu in the late game team fights. That's going to be pretty decent. And having the range against Alistar is pretty important as well, because you were just talking about the combos you can get off that pulverized headbutt, but if you can't really get in range of the Caitlyn, if Chunkster Oppa or whoever is actually playing AD carry on this team, I don't know if they're going to swap around or anything, if that AD carry can keep their distance out of headbutt range, that will be good for them. Interesting. They gone for that Olaf and the Kennen. So very aggressive front line from this entire red side. You have the Alistar, Kennen, and Olaf all wanting to pretty much throw their bodies at the enemy Caitlyn, which I think I'm liking, especially if you look at blue team. They're going for what seems like might be a protect the AD carry, or maybe protect some of just your more higher scaling teammates kind of composition. You really need a lot of engage to actually be able to break that.
Yeah, I'm going to say I was not a fan of the Udyr hover. Luckily, he changed off of that. Udyr's kind of like saying, I don't want to auto-attack Nunu ever. He's just going to constantly be slow. Nunu's E slows attack speed, move speed, and his ult slows both as well. It's just not a fun time to be a melee range champion that only has auto-attack assist abilities. But definitely like the Olaf change. Olaf is actually extremely strong into anti-carry comps, because they're looking like they're playing a protect carry. So you can more or less ignore everyone and just go ham. In the end, they end up going with a Karthus and Poppy pick. It's not very often that you see Karthus in these tournaments. Although there's a pretty decent potential for him to be effective here. Karthus' wall and Karthus dying in the middle of a team fight to AoE will completely zone Jhin out of the team fight. Although Jhin does have the ability to ult and still be useful. So we'll see how that plays out. I guess the thing that matters here is what is the counter pick mid lane. Ideally, what he wants right now is sort of a mobile, squishy assassin that can kill their only two high priority targets, which are Caitlyn and Karthus. So I'm liking the Talon hover right now. I could also definitely see Zed being extremely strong here.
I do know, actually I think the last game I cast was with Team 9 in the lower bracket, and I had forgotten it was them, but one thing I do remember is that they went for this Karthus pick in the mid lane, rushing, I think they went tier into Rabadons for a lot of mid-game damage, and I remember in the stream I was like, this is a pretty risky build, but basically come and get it. She would just basically jump into the enemy team suicide and get a lot of damage off. So it's really up to red team to be able to recognize what Karthus's objectives are in these team fights and be able to disengage away from the corpse so they don't take a lot of free damage.
Yeah, I completely agree. So it's really up to red team's ability to know what dive should be committed with, meaning if Olaf decides to ghost in an ult and he doesn't manage to kill someone instantly, whether or not he should back off or just, I don't know. It's a bad idea to overcommit against a Karthus, because he will absolutely destroy the rest of your team if you run past him. I do like the Alistar against Karthus, because you can easily knock him out of position and try to just zone him completely, leave him as the only one locked up as the rest of your team deals with the other carries. And I think the Lux as a sort of counter pick to Karthus is alright. Lux does definitely have that longer range. In terms of who's more effective late game, it's kind of a toss-up here. The Karthus is a good pick into a team with three squishies. Both the Jhin, the Kennen, and the Lux will be pretty vulnerable to Karthus ult. However, they do have the Lux shield. Kennen will most likely end up building a Zanya's. And I'm pretty sure, if I was Jhin, I'd definitely end up building a Hex Drinker at some point. But I don't see the Karthus being horribly effective late game once everyone has the item. But before that, I definitely give the advantage to red team. They have a much more balanced comp of CC, damage, and engage.
And Karthus was hovering a barrier, she was hovering that herself earlier, but actually switched at the last second. I had the spoiler banners up, so you guys couldn't see that either she changed her mind or was maybe trying to avoid a stream giving it away if I didn't have the banners up. But what are your thoughts on the Lux running barrier or Karthus running barrier versus this double teleport?
Honestly, I was kind of more of a fan of the Karthus running barrier. I think his laning phase is very rough against someone who can poke them out like Lux. And having that barrier to save yourself from the Lux ult is probably very helpful. I don't see teleport used very effectively on Karthus, mostly because the channel time is so long. By the time you finally get there, you don't really have any form of hard CC or anything to catch up to the fight. With 4.5 seconds, the only way you can really make use of your teleport is if the other team horribly overcommits, doesn't see the ward or the TP at all, and then notices, oh shit, there's a Karthus behind us. I don't think the TP is going to be that useful in the end.
We'll see just how boosted bonobos this Team 5 is, if they can correctly choose which fights they are. Also, having being able to keep track of the double teleports definitely very difficult. And I know Richard, in our game, we I actually initiated an aggressive play, but I did not account for the teleport, and we ended up losing that fight. So especially having double TPs in that, I wonder if Red Team will take that into account when they're thinking about possibly doing things like turret dives or flash pulverized kind of plays.
Yeah, Red Team certainly does have a very strong comp for diving. Oh, there's so many. The avenues of hard CC and tankiness from Alistar and Olaf early game are absolutely ridiculous. And their front-loaded damage is definitely there too. They have a good amount of burst, an okay amount of DPS. I favor Red Team just in composition by a very high amount. I'd put it like 70-30 towards Red Team in just team composition.
Oh boy. Let's see how it's gonna go.
How they play it out is a completely other story.
Being able to coordinate dives, juggle turret aggro, recognize where junglers are to not get counter ganked and things like that. These are all going to be strategies super important, but we are about to get into one of my favorite parts of the entire game itself. That is looking at their glorious skins in the loading screen. Let's see what we got here as it loads. I would start naming them, but still empty for me.
Same.
Yeah, this is actually the very unknown invisible skin build where all the teams have permanent invisibility, and it's really difficult to coordinate things like skill shots. All right, here we go. I was just joking about that invisible thing. That's nothing new on the PBE right now, but we do have Headhunter Caitlyn, Sasquatch Nunu. You know, I haven't seen Sasquatch Nunu in many months, at least,
Honestly,
or if not
not
years.
Too big a fan of the new updated splash art.
Yeah, it looks
But
a little...
I barely remember the old ones.
I do want to give props to Star Guardian Lux. That's a pretty sweet skin.
And the Kennen MD, not too shabby either. Well, personally, I like the Arctic Ops one a little.
I also want to point out that Poppy, Nami, and Caitlyn have rank 7, 6, and 5 masteries respectively, whereas Snowbase Syndra is the only person with any mastery at level 6 on his team. So if there's some mechanical misplays, that might be a source for it. Looks like Blue Team might be a little more comfortable with their champions, but...
As someone pointed out in the chat, I'm also quite tilted. Jin took Fervor for Battle. Quite a terrible mastery keystone for Jin, as he doesn't really auto-attack very much in team fight. Or he does auto-attack a lot, but he can't make use of stacking it to 8 very quickly in team fights. In general, Deathfire Touch is much more effective at increasing your damage overall in team fights. Your grenade does a lot of damage, and it helps your ult execute many times. Or just Thunderlords, honestly, is okay too, but I think Deathfire's is far superior. And in that same vein, I believe it was Karthus that took Thunderlords. Don't really understand that either. I also believe Deathfire Touch is much stronger in that case.
Well,
Scrappy level 1 invades coming in.
I mean, a lot of people get Thunderlords for that lane advantage, but if you're going for a lane advantage, why would you not go for the barrier as well? Teleport generally seen as a very safe tool that you can just kind of hold on to for late game and make sure you don't fall behind in CS. So I also agree that's a little suspicious. It looks like we might get engaged here. Looks like they're gonna face check. That's gonna be the hold on to Caitlyn. First blood already. We'll see if B-Cubs is able to get out of here. There's actually the heal from Jin. So gonna be investing a lot into this very early game. I don't know if they're gonna get that kill on Nami though. Good flash in the end.
Yeah, don't really know about if that heal was really worth it or not. Kind of felt like a poor attempt to catch up to them. Honestly, just waiting until CCs were off cooldown and then going for a quick flash engage would be much more effective. But that is okay because the first blood is in and you can hashtag worth that.
Larry Zhang, shout out to him, saying that he prefers the exhaust teleport to Karthus. So getting that in-fight advantage as well as the teleport for the late game. Not sure if you really want that against the Olaf, but that might be something you could have considered.
Yeah, so the top lane matchup is going to be, it honestly should go Ken inside. He has so much more of an ability to poke Poppy and keep her constantly low. But that is, of course, if he knows how to juggle aggro properly. A fun fact for those who may be slightly newer to League of Legends or be old to League of Legends but just never realized it. The only way you get minion aggro in lane is if you're standing in front of your own minions, so they naturally decide to walk to you, or if you use an auto attack on them, or an ability that casts on hits.
Looks like the level 2 pop is going to come out from Proper Tasty. They get the Jhin follow up a little, but no actual auto attacks from Jhin, so not too much coming out of that. And it's also really interesting that the junglers are doing some LCS level tactics, trading their jungles away with scouting vision. There they go.
Honestly, I'm pretty surprised to see these junglers trading so aggressively into each other's jungles. It's a very smart move from Olaf to decide to invade Nunu's jungle, because it is pretty obvious that Nunu would try to invade his jungle. So a nice little reactive play. They may have seen the Poppy leashing for Nunu, which is why he decided not to go up to his topside jungle. I did not catch that in the early game.
Yes, but it works out pretty well for both of them. Obviously, you mentioned Nunu has a very good time in trying to counter jungle specifically because of the Consume Smite. So bot lane for the Team 5 gonna be warding up, and they have all their lanes pushing aggressively, so I wouldn't be surprised to see if Nunu, or sorry, not Nunu, if Olaf tries to make something happen in the enemy jungle again.
Yeah, by having all their lanes pushed up, knowing Nunu isn't exactly a great gank. Especially if he's invading jungles, because generally he'll have his W and his Q and he won't even have his Ice Ball leveled for a while. Just leveling up Consume makes your jungle clear exponentially faster than leveling up Ice Ball.
He did clear out any remnants of, just checking to see if there were remnants of jungle monsters in that red top side. Gonna be grabbing the Scuttle Crab up here for him, maybe looking at the Poppy. Here comes Nunu actually for a gank. He gets spotted out, so Snowbase Cinder is gonna be starting to hug the other side of the lane. Has Olaf there if need be. Nunu's just waiting and decides to back off.
I believe Nunu was spotted on the rotation down bot lane. He was seen with the ward. He's gonna run into another ward, but for some reason they aren't backing off at all. But the gank does not happen in the end.
Yeah, that was actually a ward put down, I think by Proper Tasty, just about a minute ago. And you can see it was just running out when Nunu came down. So very well played by the bottom side, knowing that jungle ganks might come, and barely caught that Nunu as well.
Karthus decides to TP back to lane after getting enough money for tier. So trying to scale into that mid lane and cruise or mid game and cruise into it just a little bit faster by trying to get the Archangels at probably around the 25-minute mark. Is a pretty decent goal.
Yeah, now
goes into the WQ.
Getting some decent harass on that Nami. Unfortunately, against the Nami lane, it's pretty difficult to actually get lasting damage. She is maxing her ebb and flow, so gonna be able to heal up pretty well after any kind of poke like that. Still at pretty healthy mana as well, so looks kind of flashy from the Alistar Jhin, but in the end doesn't really actually do much.
It's pretty difficult to trade against a Nami and actually get anything out of it. Nami's heal is quite strong in the early game, and considering that Alistar can't constantly go in and still have mana, Nami will probably end up winning the sustained war in terms of bot lane. They just have to do a very hard engage all in if they want a chance to win this lane.
I just want to give props to Luster Shade, jungler for Team 5 here on Olaf. When he was clearing the Skullcrab, he actually bought a first rotation pink ward and put it up there. I'll start going in again. I don't know if they're going to do anything. Looks like the Aqua Prison does not quite land. But yeah, getting that really early pink ward out might be useful later on. We'll just have to wait and see. And Snowbase Syndra putting that ward in the same spot. Gonna be seeing Nunu once again, but he was wise this time, able to see that and clear it with his Raptor buff. So Snowbase Syndra gonna go back now, has 1,300 gold, pick up his first item.
Olaf goes for the Cinder Hulk rush on the Bomby Cinder, and so does Nunu. It's a pretty okay buy, but considering they aren't exactly ganking or trying to make things happen, it feels a little odd since it's just raw stats. In terms of clearing the jungle, maybe it helps you clear the jungle slightly faster, but having that Hunter's Machete and completing it into the Stalker's Blade or Butcher's Knife or whichever enchantment they decide to go for does end up giving you more EXP from killing camps and would be better for power farming jungle, which is more or less what they're doing right now.
Yeah, ever since that first blood, Olaf hasn't really had any more luck, and even then, I don't know if you can qualify that as a gank. But with a Cloud Dragon up first, that might be something that they could look for, but maybe not one of the most contested Drakes in the game at the moment.
Yeah, Cloud Drake would definitely benefit Red Team much more than Blue Team, though, since they will be the ones looking for those aggressive engages, trying to ghost in or flash in on Kennen, and trying to get the catch on someone. So I think the Air Drake, while not high priority from either team, is definitely a higher priority for Red Team than Blue Team.
Also, although Lux has gotten more pressure consistently in the mid lane with the teleport, Karthus has actually accrued a very slight CS lead, but it's only 8 minutes in the game, so I would not be surprised if that continues to increase now that he has more mana.
Olaf is chasing down Nunu in the jungle. He's landed 2 axes. This would be his 3rd axe. He's going to chase through the Karthus. He has to run through the wall, and not much happens when Lux collapses and everyone just decides to disengage. They are dancing around this blue buff.
Yeah, and none of these champions really have a go button yet unless Lux lands some crazy kind of binding. So they're poking each other. If Olaf had his level 6, maybe he could go for something, but Karthus doing actually a lot of damage there with the Thunderlord's Decree on that last late waste he landed. They're still contesting this blue buff, and Kennen has lane pressure, so this is a 3v2 for Team 5. I would not be surprised if they actually go in for this and bully out the other team. They need to keep Nunu away, though, because if he gets in range of Smite and Consume, that will be his. And actually, there goes the binding. Is he going to be able to get killed? 1 axe from Olaf, another axe. Not quite picking it up. In the end,
Close attempt for a kill, but
yeah, they did still steal the blue buff, which could be pretty useful against a Karthus especially. He is going for that double mana build with a Rod of Ages possibly second. Or, I think he actually might have gone GLP last game, which would be pretty decent for the zone control type of mage he is.
Yeah, as much as I think the new Hextech items are cool, I think Rod of Ages is still definitely king in terms of late game, especially because Arthas is all about having those crazy damage ults. It's not really about, you know, slowing people in the zone around him. It's more about getting that insane damage down. You
think Nunu's the only Frost mage on this team? Think again. That's right.
Nami has that Frost.
Oh man, Soy Milk is bad, getting a little bit harassed there, and the CS is pretty much dead even in the top side. Poppy actually has a bit of a lead because there's a few minions stacked up from the last wave, so she's going to be able to get maybe like a 10 CS lead if she picks all those up. Soymilk actually taking a lot of damage. Here comes the ultimate, uses the Steadfast Presence to stop Kennen from trying to get out, and that bonus movement speed. She's going to pick up 1 kill and gets out of the turret.
I'm really confused as to why Soymilk didn't even decide to use ult. He could have gotten an instant stun stack there and probably ended up killing Poppy under tower there. Also, just the fact that he was still contesting and trying to poke a Poppy that had already bought items while he is still sitting on Doran's Ring and a single health potion. A little odd.
Yeah, and Luster Shade going for the dragon, but he doesn't have pressure mid and no vision of the Nunu, so he's actually going to fall there. Here comes the curtain call from Jin. Nami coming out in front, going to be able to interrupt maybe the last shot. I think he still got that off, though. Proper Tasty going to flash out there, and in the end, Olaf dies, so this could be a dragon for Team 9.
With Nunu, this dragon's pretty much guaranteed secure. Actually, it drops down to 100 health on the Smite. Lux goes in for a full combo, gets exhausted very well.
Yeah, Nami gonna be trying to follow up on the Lux, but they do pick up Alcer off the backside. Here's a cannon. Is he gonna try to... Oh, everyone's already spread out, though. Lux is gonna pick up the kill with the help of Jin onto the Nunu, and I think Kennen was trying a little too hard on that ultimate because he only got maybe one person, but he's getting pretty far extended away from his team. Almost picks up the kill onto Nami. Lux goes in for a flash light biting. This fight is super chaotic and lasting so long. Here comes the Karthus finally coming back to pick up the kill against his lane counterpart, and with the Poppy at full health, gonna be very comfortable sieging this mid lane tower.
Very aggressive misstep from that Lux there, flashing forward.
Yeah, Olaf coming in to try to do something, but without his ultimate, he just walks in and dies to the CC. That's not what you really want off your jungler right here, because this might be enough pressure to force Team 5 to give up the tower.
Yeah, very poor rotations, and another dive from Poppy, and the kill goes over to Karthus. They are not respecting the other team at all. In this situation where you already have 2 or 3 members dead trying to defend a single turret, with not a single person that can wave clear, honestly, you should just go somewhere else and farm. The tower is going down no matter what. The only thing you're doing by staying is giving them a chance to dive and kill you.
Yeah, I think what maybe could have made that fight turn a little bit better for Team 5 in that was possibly an earlier King Ultra, because we really only saw him in the fight when it was almost over already, and he got that ultimate onto maybe the Nami, but by the time he was there, everyone was super spread out. Even though he got a stun on the enemy support, nobody could actually follow up. So if Red Team had maybe gotten a more aggressive Orphan to flank in on, or if they could have communicated that possibly a little better, I think that maybe could have had it turn out better, but Olaf really had no business trying to solo that dragon without any vision.
Especially without a pink ward, just the scanner. Especially against a Nunu who can easily steal dragons on his own. Nami going in for the 1v1 against Jin, just slightly trading back and forth. I guess Nami does have the greater sustain in the end, but I'm not sure if it's really worth it. Don't exactly accomplish very much in the end.
And Nami's going for a Frost Fang into very early Boots of Lucidity. Well, not very early, but fairly early. Actually, I do play Nami a lot, and I was asking our friend Tano from Ulol about Nami builds, and he recommended, I usually go Coin after my Sight Stone, and then into Lucidity Boots. And I used to go Lucidity Boots first, so he recommended that I wait off on those, because you can probably get away without all that investment early on. Anyways, Nunu coming in there. Actually, Alcer going in for a combo, but Nunu's going to be close by. He actually doesn't come straight bot lane. He takes a second to turn around, so I don't know if the fight will last this long. Caitlyn going to get a lot of poke down. Actually, here comes the Nami ultimate. Tidal Wave going to be knocking him up. Alcer ults fairly late because he's already pretty low on health. One last auto from the Nami. Going to be fishing it up, but a good snare from the Lux. Going to be able to bind Nami in place. Gets 1 kill with the curtain call. Are they going to be able to get more? Nunu and Jin facing off against each other, but actually Nunu looks exactly towards Sonobe. Syndrome, this barrier comes out a little bit, almost saves him, but not quite. And now Jin is completely out of mana. I don't know if he'll be able to get out of there. No, double kill for the blue team. Meanwhile, Soy Milk is bad, almost gets solo killed again, but the very last second stun saves him, and here comes the Requiem finishing it off.
Ooh. The Karthus ult with no one to contest whatsoever. Nunu accidentally tanking some tower shots while they're sieging bot lane, but shouldn't make a difference. The Blood Boil should be able to give them this tower without any more issues. But no, they decide to back off. They're respecting the Alistar maybe too much. This is definitely a free tower.
Also, that was a nice Requiem from the Karthus, his ultimate picking up that kill, but why couldn't you do that like 30 seconds earlier? Your bot lane was fighting at the same time as your top lane. Could have made it so much easier, but Team 9, they're pretty comfortable regardless. They pick up leads across the map now. Karthus 4-0 remarkably, and ahead in CS over his opponent. In fact, every single lane is ahead of their opponent, except for Nunu's CS, but he's Nunu. He's been able to make ganks work on the bottom side.
I'm not really seeing how Red Team's gonna climb their way back into this game, because at the moment they're far behind enough that a Nunu ult alone can zone the entire team, followed up by a Karthus ult, and it's pretty much over. Really, they only have a couple small windows to fight and really force things, and that's when the Karthus ult is down.
Looks like a lot of them are grouping around mid here. They're going to be also taking Scuttle Crabs in the top side. I'm not sure how much pressure they're going to be able to put on the mid tower against a Karthus with the Tier and Rod of Ages. Because that is definitely a lot of wave clear you got to deal with. But Luster Shade and Friend going to be picking up another advantage by taking that blue buff, reminiscent of 5 minutes ago. This time without a lot of the hassle involved.
Yeah, I do. One thing that always annoys me a little every time is anytime. Oh.
Bye. Later, Felicia. But Olaf's gonna be continuing to go in. No, he does not want to fight that Poppy. Unfortunately, they rotate top after stealing that, so that's gonna give him complete dragon pressure to Team 9.
Yeah, now that champions are starting to approach level 9, you know what that means? Oh, and okay, Jin almost got the steal on the dragon, but yeah. Too much action to talk about builds right now.
Oh boy!
I think they're calming down a little. Alright, back to level 9. Level 9 means upgrade your trinkets, please. If you have a scanner, please upgrade it once you hit level 9. It makes such a huge difference. And also, if you play AD carry, probably swap to the other far side orb.
Yeah, Team 9 gonna be shoving out this mid tower. Could be pretty dangerous. Kennen is looking to be coming in on the backside. Where's the ultimate flash? No, he could have gone in. He doesn't pop the ultimate. Actually, gonna burn the Nunu ult at least, but that's the Olaf as well. So maybe not the best communication from Red's side, but their bot lane is still coming up. They could be waiting to pull the trigger once all 5 members of the team are here. They're gonna be flashing forward on Snowbase Syndra. The barrier comes and saves some of that damage. Bot lane is here, but the rest of the team is pretty low. They're actually going to back off from the Requiem, from the Karthus. Poppy going to try to sandwich this L-Star. He might be in a bad spot right now. A lot of miscommunication from the red side. Their members going in and out and burning ultimates incongruously.
And the TP top lane, a little curious. I guess they're just going to give up mid lane completely now. Really, because all of their members are so low right now, there's no point in staying. You're just gonna get dove. Go back, heal, and then maybe you can actually put up a real fight the next time. These are just very, very bad rotations, and I guess not exactly a good sense of game progression.
Olaf actually going back in his jungle, even though Poppy was still there. I guess assumed he went back, but gonna get hit up by the light binding, by the final spark. Is that gonna be enough, though? I don't know. Actually, the flash forward picks up from Lord Next. His fervor for battle, giving him a little bit of extra damage there.
Not quite as much damage as Deathfires would have given him, but I guess it's something.
Well, they pick up 1 kill in exchange for the bottom lane turret. That's going to extend the goal lead to about 6,000 in 19.5 minutes, which is pretty dang significant, especially when you're a team with an Olaf that, if you fall behind and get a gold deficit on the Olaf, it's so hard to actually make the pick worth it, because it gets increasingly more difficult to be able to kill the backline, especially when you're against a Nami rushing Mikhail's Crucible.
Yeah, Olaf's strong point is definitely in his early game. His true damage E on his pretty much, it doesn't scale into late game because there is no scaling. It's just a flat true damage amount that he gets every time. And the base damage of his axe starts to become less and less effective as champions gain natural armor or start to build armor against him.
Yeah, and the only outer turret left up on for the red team is in this top lane. Karthus having to burn flash there. We're gonna walk into Kennen, but I don't know if Kennen can do enough damage before getting poked out himself. He is gonna run out himself there, and I really want to see a good slicing maelstrom coming out from this top lane, because there have been maybe 1 or 2 opportunities he could have made it work, but hasn't really found quite the exact moment he was looking for. With Jin on the bottom side, though, I wouldn't be surprised if blue team tries to go for a possible dive play with their really strong Poppy.
Yeah, Kennen seems to hesitate using ult while he's in his E. It's a little odd considering that all Kennen can do while he's in his E is use stones. He isn't able to auto attack at all.
Looks like Jin is going to be able to get the turret on the bot side. So this is so far getting work for the red team. But looks like a double Aqua Prison going to be holding them out. No slicing Maelstrom this fight. Now they can all just focus the Olaf. Going to burn him down. Jin is not even at his base yet. So this is probably going to be looking like another turret. You can look at Poppy. She's so much health on the backside. Going to use that. Oh my goodness. That W gonna block the Alistar headbutt, and Lux doing what she can, but it's just not enough. The Jin curtain call coming out, but against Arrakis and Ramanuja, it's just not gonna cut it, to be honest.
Yeah, not looking very good for the red team at all. I'm not really sure why they were fighting outside of their tower range to begin with. When you're this far behind in the game, you're gonna need all the help you can get to win a team fight. So honestly, engaging not outside of tower range is not good at all. And then that was also one of the ballsiest Karthus ults I've ever seen. He was still completely alive in the middle of the team fight, using an ult against a team with an Alistar, Kennen, Jin. Like, he didn't care if CC was coming his way. Just let it all off completely anyways.
You know, I think this is a good time for her, but come and get it. She's doing pretty dang well in that mid lane. With a dragon up in 1 minute, I would not be surprised at all if that's where the wards are going to be starting to go for the blue team. And now that we've gotten to the mid to starting to see the later stages of the game in terms of item builds, getting on that third item, they do have the double teleport. And with this kind of Goldie, they can really start pressuring Team 5 a lot, with a lot of split push pressure. Here comes the Poppy, though, actually going to go on to Snow-Based Syndra. The Tidal Wave only going to buff the movement speed off of Ramanuja. Is he going to be able to get a kill? I don't know, but in the meantime, Karthus barely picks up Olaf before he falls down. The last shot on the Jin is going to land. Alistar also going to die here, and now Ramanuja actually misses the charge for the Jin, lets him walk right past, but it doesn't matter. He has enough movement speed that he's gonna get his Caitlyn a double kill. This is gonna be at least another objective here, if not more than just one. Soymilk's bad is getting pretty low himself. A flash Aqua Blizzard comes out from B Coops, but doesn't quite land. Barely survives. No, my Nami buddy, you can make it out. I believe in you, but unfortunately his team was not entirely happy with him, so they just let him die instead of tanking the turret for him. Soymilk's bad has to burn that flash, and that is really painful when you have a team that has so much disengaged, and you're Kennen, you need your flash as much as possible.
And that Kennen also really needs to stop being so conservative with the ult, and definitely get some boots over that proto belt that they're prioritizing so much. Movement speed is kind of important to get your ult in, or just to escape and stay alive.
Yeah, and Eggroll Eric was mentioning in a Twitch chat that in the fight earlier at the topside tower, if Kennen didn't go for Kindle Gem, he would have had enough money to buy Zanya's Hourglass for that fight instead. So I can only imagine what it could have been like if he had stayed alive, maybe gotten the 4-man stun through slicing Maelstrom off. But right now, they're just chasing hairs off the hairs on the back of this grungy Nunu.
Actually, he had Zanya's the entire time. I think Eggroll is saying how he's not using Zanya's at all during these fights. Holding on to Zanya's as much as they hold on to ult, which is not exactly what you need to do on Kennen. Sometimes you just have to pull the trigger.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate.
Laughing party mid lane.
Let's see who has the best laugh in this game. Looks like Kennen's gonna actually be going top lane. He does have the teleport and a couple of wards that could actually be used to decent effect if he wants to teleport in the mid lane. He has one near the Raptors there, and also one behind the mid lane over here. But it looks like this entire Team 9 squad is goon squatting up here. They find Luster Shade. Get out of there, buddy. They're going to ignore him and just go for the Kennen. Maybe if he, no, I don't see a single way you can get out of this.
Yeah, unless he uses ult or, no, never mind.
Looks like Soymilk is bad. Is going to be eating some of that himself. Proper taste, he gets hit up with the Aqua Prison. Doesn't burn his ultimate either. That was off cooldown, but he just didn't cast it for some reason. And Lloyd next, doing what he can with the Curtain's Call. Ooh, a good double binding from the Lux. They shut down the Karthus, but they need to keep in mind that the body's still there. Olaf pays no regard to that fact. Dives straight through into the tower, into his own tower, but it's not going to be helping him enough. And that's going to be another person going down. Lloyd next, staying so low here at the tower, refusing to go back and heal. That means Ramanuja sees the low health on the Jin, smells the blood, maybe. Just going to be
They really
happy.
just need to go back.
Oh my goodness. Not like this! The Snow-Based Syndra and Lord next try to both flash, but it ends up not working out. Soy Milk is bad, gets an ult off on one person, but he's already really low. They have no follow-up damage. Lux's spells were all on cooldown. I think this might be the end for Team 5. Is this going to be their second loss in the tournament? Proper Tasty taking a while to go down, but another binding landing on Chunks of Opa.
Still missing for some reason.
Unfortunate for Snow-Based Syndra. Not quite getting that combo. I'm not sure if it would have killed off the Caitlyn, but either way, that does mean that they're going to lose the first inhibitor of the game at 27 minutes, building a 12,000 gold lead for Team 9.
So I guess the nice thing here is we at least saw some improvement here, and then did use an item active and ultimate. So hopefully, with some couple more games and some practice, they can become a little more effective. Yeah, I also did find it really weird that Lux speed did not, or that Lux ult did not hit Caitlyn there. It definitely looked like it did, but either way, it wouldn't have made a difference in the end. She wasn't low enough to actually die.
And Team 9 just going to be cleaning up every other thing on the map because Red side cannot really leave their base right here. The curtain call comes out and here's Alistar, but they have no other damage in the front line. Kennen just finally arriving in the fight. He gets a double pulp. Where's the slicing maelstrom? They don't really need it. Poppy throws out the ultimate, realizes she cannot do anything to Olaf, so tries to hit it on somebody in the back line. Doesn't hit anyone, but they get out nonetheless, so blue team playing pretty aggressively across all parts of the map. They get a turret on the bot side, they get the Baron on the top side. All they had to do was pay the price of their team captain. But come and get it, pretty selfless. They're saying, you know what? I'll die for my team. Karthus is my main. That is what I do. I love feeding because it wins me games.
After all you have to do is press R when you play Karthus.
Yeah, I mean, this Karthus has the most deaths on her team, so pretty disappointing, you know. But
yeah,
I say that sarcastically. They have been playing pretty dang well, except for maybe one or two ultimates that could have been more optimally timed. There's a huge wave in this mid lane, though, for Team 9, so it looks like they're going to be getting this tower for free. There's a flank possibility setting up. Where's the Kennen? Jin is going back in the base. They could go in on this right now, but they have no AD carry to follow up. Maybe he'll get the curtain call in soon. Here comes the teleport from the Karthus. They're going to have a 5v4 right here because Nunu's still near the river. And a couple ultimates and other cooldowns burn, but nothing really happening except for Alistar going down again. He again did not pop the unstoppable force. Here comes Lloydney going out with the curtain call. Soy Milk trying to kill anybody, but cannot even pop Dekus. Unfortunately, she decides what the tide will bring. Ramanuja, meanwhile, hammering Lord next in the face. A very timely shield coming out from the Lux, possibly saving him in Luster Shade, getting hit up with another Nami Aqua Prison. He is going to go down. Snow-Based Syndra gets stunned up heroically by Ramanuja and his charge. Looks like they're not going to get the kill on the Lux, but it's not going to matter. That's going to be the final game of the lower bracket in the Group B. Undefeated are Team 9. I'm really excited to see how they do in the playoffs, and looks like Alistar doing what they can, but the GG coming up from Soy Milk is bad. That's going to be the game.
Woo. What a game.
Indeed. Fights were very long and chaotic, and unfortunately we just never really saw a crisp engage and wombo combo from the red side.
Yeah, honestly, what I think it came down to was not respecting tanks enough and not engaging enough. So when you play a team with Olaf, Kennen, Alistar, Jin, and Lux, and pretty much every single person on the team has some sort of catch or some sort of hard CC. You just have to force fight somewhere. You might be like, but wait, we're behind. But wait, there's this thing called laning phase where there's usually only one person in one place, and you can easily move two people to that place. But I guess they also could have been scared of the double TP coming in or something like that. But the way you kind of get around this double TP is you gank one of the lanes with TP. So at most, it's a single TP. So what they really need to do is force these fights probably around mid lane, since Poppy is getting ridiculously tanky, especially because Karthus has little to no ability to escape. They'll just die and then sit there.
What are you gonna do against an Olaf? He just like, alright, I'll slowly walk away now. Hopefully get a kill off the backside, but
Yeah, so red team need to respect the dives a lot more too. That Poppy got rolling pretty quickly and was able to tank a solid number of tower shots. Same thing with Nunu, especially with a Nami heal in the back. And when a team fight didn't go their way and they decided to start backing off, they also decided to stay under the tower and try to defend at the quarter health and get dove. So it's generally not a thing you want to do. When you know you're going to lose an objective, honestly, it's usually better to just try to get an objective somewhere else. Whether that's just picking up your wolves before it gets stolen, picking up your red before it gets stolen, or trying to set up a slow push in a different lane. That way they can't constantly take towers over and over. It's better to just give up that objective and try to gain small things elsewhere than lose everything entirely.
yeah, either that or if you want to stay, make sure 30 seconds. If you see the enemy team grouping somewhere, make sure all of your team members get to the fight. It was heartbreaking to see the possibility of a double-sided flank and then their Jhin is in the bottom side, or something like they get the pulverized, but the cannon's still like behind your Lux. You need to be able to communicate to all the your people if they're trying to dive to make sure to arrive at the location at the same time. I think a big story of this game is the damage dealt to champions. I mean, you see Soy Milk is bad on Kennen, did less damage than the Nami on the other side, so pretty unfortunate for him.
And speaking of communication, there's this wonderful program out there called Discord. A very easy, simple, lightweight client that you can use to talk to your teammates.
Wow. What a great program. Everyone should go
Maryland
make
has
a Discord account.
their very own sponsored Discord specifically made for playing League of Legends.
Oh boy.
If you want more information on it, it is on umcplaw.weebly.com, where you can find the links and all the other information regarding our club.
Yeah, I do want to give Team 5 props, though, for one thing, and that is the vision, because looking at the post-game stats, pretty much everyone on their team was consistently warding more than their counterparts. Also, if you look at Team 9, most 3 of them haven't changed their warding totem trinket, and that's okay if maybe like you're a mid laner, and a lot of times you might see one or two, or a top laner, maybe you need to put more permanent wards down around if you're split pushing with teleport or something. But especially on something like a Nunu, your jungler, you need to make sure to upgrade those trinkets at level 9. And just to throw out some of the statistics here, everyone on the red side bought at least one pink ward. They had their support by 5 pink wards, as opposed to their support by themselves bought more pink wards than the entirety of Team 9 combined, who only had, or it's equal to Team 9. They only had 5 wards across their whole team. So maybe looking forward, Team 9 want to look at controlling vision a little more. They had decent rotations without vision, but if they're going against someone that is a little more coordinated, able to kind of map out where the enemy team is and try to catch them, that could be something that they could be taken advantage of, especially if they're playing against Team 6 in the finals, who's also 5-0 on the other side of the bracket.
Ooh. Watching undefeated teams clash against each other, especially once they get out of brackets into something like groups, is always very interesting, because neither team is used to losing, and when you play a series, someone has to lose a game. So...
Indeed.
Serial tilt may begin.
All right. Well, if you had to pick an MVP for the series, what would you think it would be?
I think I'm gonna have to give the MVP to Poppy on this one. I would say Poppy definitely ended up doing the most in terms of initiating dives, solid rotations, and all in all, just being a very annoying tank. There were so many times where the other team just simply couldn't engage or just zoned by the Poppy. And then there's also many, many times where they didn't respect the Poppy enough and got punished for it. So I'd definitely give props to the Poppy for being able to position well in team fights and being that one to call the trigger on these dives.
All right, there you have it. Ramanuja, the MVP of this game, 7-1-12, as well as going 30 CS above their lane opponent. Props to you. And I'm about to take the GRE tomorrow, so I have to go back to studying. This is a nice little break. But it's been nice casting with you. C9 high as balls. Everyone, happy birthday to my co-caster here.
Thank you.
You're 23? 22?
22. Yeah.
Okay. You still a baby. By baby, I mean middle-aged man. Don't make him angry though. He works for the feds, so he'll get the FBI on you. Thanks for saying good luck in chat, Paul. Good luck to you guys. They are still, I believe, they're one of the top teams in the group right now. They're 3-2. So there's another team that's 3-1, Team 11 right now. So depending on how that goes, they could still end up the second seed in the group, but we'll probably get out of playoffs regardless. Get into playoffs regardless. So best of luck to everyone here. And if you Twitch chat, just starting to throw out some Taylor Swift references. So that's my cue to leave. It's been nice co-casting with you. Do you have any final words?
Just a quick shout out to Mogu Law, or Paul, other known as Snowbase Syndra. Thank you very much for the monitor that he bought me for my birthday. It's a beautiful Asus 144 hertz monitor.
What the?
We've been roommates for a while. Best buds, so thank you very much for this. I'm using it right now, but I'm still trying to work out the kinks because I have 60 hertz monitor on the other side. And I don't think my graphics card can support both at the same time. So I'm trying to figure it out right now. But thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and just to reiterate to everyone, the Paul he's referring to was the Lux in this game, who tuned me in for the cast. So thanks also to him for bring us on, being able to watch him get dumpstered. I'm sorry we had to do this, but it was a pleasure regardless. Hopefully you can have some pleasure, take some pleasure in the VOD. The Alistar also never upgraded their boots. But anyways, it was a nice casting, and I'll see you guys in the playoffs. Unless there are more games that are going to be played in other groups by other teams. Okay, bye!
Bye!